The horrifying end of Emperor Caligula, 41 CE. Rome in 41 CE was tense, suspicious, and weary. Behind the marble facades of temples and palaces, fear stalked the streets. The Senate no longer met with dignity but with dread. The Praetorian Guard, Rome's supposed protectors, carried daggers in their cloaks as much for survival as for defense. At the center of it all sat Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus. Germanicus, better known as Caligula, the emperor who inspired more terror than loyalty. By his fourth year, Caligula had transformed from Rome's shining hope into a living nightmare. His erratic decisions, humiliations of the Senate, and impulsive executions left the elite in constant uncertainty. No senator or knight could be sure whether a meeting would end in favor or a death sentence. From this suffocating atmosphere, a plot began to form, the roots of fear. Caligula's behavior became increasingly unpredictable after a near-fatal illness in late 37 CE. Initially adored as the son of Germanicus and great-nephew of Augustus, the young emperor's generosity and respect for tradition gave way to cruelty and arrogance. He demanded worship as a living god, forced senators to grovel, and delighted in reminding Rome's most powerful men how fragile their lives were. Executions were public entertainment. Wealth was seized on whims. Even the emperor's closest followers lived in constant anxiety. It was not if, but when Caligula would turn on them. The guard turns cold. The Praetorian Guard, created to protect the emperor, found themselves humiliated and belittled. Caligula mocked their commanders, ridiculed their voices, and stripped them of dignity. One man, Cassius Chaerea, a decorated tribune, became a personal target. Public insults over his voice and manhood wounded his honor, a value as vital as life itself. It was no surprise when Chaerea stepped forward as a leader of the assassination plot. Key conspirators. The conspiracy was born from desperation, not ambition. Cassius Chaerea, Praetorian tribune driven by personal humiliation. Cornelius Sabinus, officer fearing execution at the emperor's whim. Other guard officers, men torn between loyalty and survival. The betrayal was intimate. Danger came not from foreign enemies, but from those entrusted to defend the emperor. The moment of decision. Plots against emperors were not rare, but hesitation meant death. Chaerea identified the perfect moment, the Palatine Games in January 44 CE, a festival honoring Augustus. Caligula would attend, moving through palace corridors where the German guards would not be present. The conspirators agreed this was their chance. The Palatine Games. The Palatine Hill, seat of imperial power, buzzed with music, drama, and cheering crowds. Actors played mythic roles. Athletes competed for glory. Yet behind the spectacle, a darker drama unfolded. Conspirators hid daggers beneath their garments, small, deadly, and lethal at close range. The risk was immense. Failure meant torture. Success would shake Rome itself. The eve and morning of assassination. On 23 January, the conspirators finalized their plan. They would strike in a narrow underground passage away from spectators and guards. By dawn on 24 January, Rome stirred with ordinary life. Oblivious to the violence about to unfold, Caligula prepared theatrically, draped in silk and gold, as courtiers scurried to serve him. To the world he remained charismatic and commanding, yet around him hatred and fear coiled invisibly, the daggers of history waiting in hidden hands. The fatal walk. After the games, Caligula walked through the narrow passage to his private chambers. His German bodyguards, stationed elsewhere, were absent. The conspirators, positioned strategically, awaited their moment. Caligula, arrogant and playful, remained oblivious. His casual demeanor made the attack even more horrifying, a ruler larger-than-life moments from death, by the very men who had once saluted him. The assassination. Cassius Chaerea struck first. The dagger met flesh with deadly precision. Caligula cried out, but other guards joined immediately. Over 30 blows rained down. The passage amplified the horror. There was no escape. The emperor, once untouchable, was caught in a trap of his own making. The ferocity was personal, a release of years of fear and resentment. His cries went unanswered. By the time his loyal bodyguards arrived, it was too late. Caligula, who demanded adoration as a living god, lay mortal and broken on the cold stones of his palace. Immediate aftermath. Chaos erupted. Courtiers screamed, servants fled, and the corridors were slick with blood. The violence extended beyond Caligula. Caesonia, his wife, was killed to prevent political complications. Julia Drusilla, his young daughter, was murdered to eliminate any dynastic claim. Rome's imperial bloodline was violently severed in a single day. Shock across Rome. The assassination shattered the illusion of imperial invincibility. The idea that the Praetorian Guard could kill their own master was unprecedented. Panic spread among senators and citizens alike. The streets, usually filled with life, seemed to hold their breath. The Guard, however, understood the power they now wielded. By executing Caligula, they established themselves as kingmakers forever, altering the balance between military and political power in Rome. Claudius emerges. Amid the chaos, Claudius, Caligula's uncle, was found hiding behind a palace curtain, once underestimated as weak and awkward. His survival made him the ideal candidate for the Guard to proclaim emperor. Claudius's accession illustrated a crucial shift. Rome's throne was no longer guaranteed by bloodline or Senate decree. It rested on military support. The Guard had executed a tyrant and dictated succession, setting a precedent that would haunt emperors for decades. Historical legacy. Caligula's assassination was horrifying, intimate, and transformative. It demonstrated loyalty can evaporate in the face of cruelty. Absolute power is vulnerable to betrayal by those entrusted to protect it. Military influence could override hereditary or senatorial authority. Claudius' rise restored order, but Rome's elite never forgot that power was fragile. Fear, ambition, and hatred had intersected, forever shaping the Julio-Claudian dynasty.